Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap up here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is, what is today? Today is April 11th, 2025. All of the days are starting to blend together, so my apologies. We're looking at Bitcoin today. We're also going to take a look at Ethereum and Solana. And we're going to start off with Bitcoin here as it did pump off the lows. We talked about this on Wednesday. We got a nice retest of the lower low here at around that 74 and a half, 74, 420, 69. Nice. Got to get the meme numbers in. We did get a retest of that area on Wednesday. We talked about this and we set the low. And thus far, we've been playing around the high side of that close after a down Thursday. Bitcoin has gotten a close open above the basis band here. And, something to note, at least locally, Bitcoin's just kind of hanging on to the low of this candle, kind of mid move up here after breaking out of that prior accumulation range from last year. And, it's relevant for right now. Realistically, it's a front run of the high of that range at that 73.835 over here. I won't snap to it, but we're still in a downtrend on the daily. This is another lower low that's set. The area that needs to be beat is the same as it was on Wednesday, and that's really $89,000. We kind of got a front run of that there. There is some daily area. There is a daily area of interest at this low right here at 88,700. But realistically, at this point, we need to see $89,000 break on a weekly close. That's the same now still for the daily until we see another lower high. There is $85,000 right around where we saw this failure, this swing fail. We got the rejection. We had the high put in, came up to that high on Liberation Day and then rejected before making lower lows. So the most important area is going to be around that $89,000. $85,000 is essentially going to be a checkpoint. That is, of course, the first bearish candle post-expansion. That is the low of that candle. And then, of course, we have the close open is where we found this higher low that we just saw the most recent rejection just shy of $89,000 at. So the criteria from here is going to be 89K. That might change over the weekend if there is a lower high put in lower than that. 85K is the checkpoint. And of course, if we start to see Bitcoin drop below the swing low here at 78, we're testing the lows over here, that 76 to mid 70s again down by this current low. If it drops it, we're looking into the big zone down below. We'll turn on support and resistance in just a moment just to visualize that. But let's go ahead and check on a few things here. We've got another drive of regular bullish divergence. The first bit of that is played out with the bounce up. And we do have a stochastic momentum turn in full effect, looking to come out of the bearish control zone for a regular Stoch. This is not a Stoch RSI. So understand that a Stoch RSI measures the velocity of RSI. A regular Stoch measures close over close price momentum. In this case, it's pointed to the upside above that low that I just pointed out, 78,000, 78,100 in this case. And I believe that low is like 78,127 or something close to it. Let's go ahead and take a look. I believe it's fairly close. So we do want to see 167. So 78,167. In this case, we want to see essentially closes above $78,000. Now, I'm not a fan of pumping off a low into a weekend, but we'll see how this weekend progresses. We talked a little bit about what occurred in traditional markets with corporate bonds selling off, that being the investment grade and high yield bonds selling off, as well as U.S. Treasuries. And then, of course, this isn't just here in the United States that this is happening for traditional markets. It is happening all over the world in response to what is now occurring just between the U.S. and China for the kind of trade war, tariff war stuff that's going on. And that's had the net effect of people coming out into cash, either by choice or forced out. So there's a massive deleveraging event that is sideline capital now. We need to see where that heads, and in uncertain times, I think we might have to wait until a deal is struck. There is some early indications that a deal, might be being worked on, but we won't know until we know, until they let us know, until I guess ink is to paper, right? In this case, it's gonna look like we want to be a little bit more on the defensive until we see some actual movement and price that breaks the downtrend. And of course, for me, that's above $89,000. There's still work to do, though, even if Bitcoin does break above and close above $89,000 on the daily. We need to see that follow through to a weekly. And of course, we're coming into a weekend. So if we do get a nice pump to the highs here to take this out, then maybe we could see the weekend close there. If not, we look to next week. And of course, the criteria is hold the lows, no matter what. Right? So we want to see a trend shift. Even if there's a lower high, lower than 89, we want to see if there is a lower high, you want to see higher low, equal low structure, either on a swing or a close, as it relates to the most recent lows here at 74, 420, 69. Nice. So, that's kind of where I stand on this. Now, what I will say is this is one of the reasons why I don't like coming into the weekend off a pump like this, because it's still in lower low structure. We have a little bit of a swing uptrend and even a closing higher low here on the 12-hour. But if we look at what's occurring here, we got a lot of bullish divergence that's been building. And if we don't start seeing that break of some of these areas, 85 to 89, then we're looking for another high to be put in. And what that would likely do is turn momentum down on the 12-hour. And, it just kind of depends on what the market desires over the weekend without the pros trading. And in this case, if we do see continuation to the upside to break some of those areas, that would be encouraging. Still need to see higher low, equal low structures that relates to the most recent low. In this case, 12-hour remain up for the next 12-hour candle above $80,000 essentially. But it is something to pay attention to. If anything, if we do see a lower high as it relates to 89 or even 85, like if this was the high, keep an eye on the 12-hour at like 78 again to this low over here at, 78.5, $78,000 would be an early indication that the lows might get tested again. Maybe lower, but you're looking for it to essentially, if you're going to be bullish, you're looking for it to either swing the lows or hold the lows here. With equal low, higher low structure. If we do get lower lows, probably going to test down, lower lows are very likely to test that range, the range highs from last year. So let's go ahead and turn on support and resistance, and we'll move on to the weekly, and then we'll take a look at ETH and SOL. Let's go ahead and get this on here. Again, just to visualize kind of where things are, we'll turn off the Bollinger Bands here for a moment. Big thing about Bollinger Bands, though, it past the lows, we're getting expansion into retest, maybe even coming into that, $73,835, $74,000. The big ass weekly zone of interest, there is actually some daily zones in here that I've added to down there just in case. These are viable targets should Bitcoin lose the low. We've got that one candle that we see all the swings coming in on now from the move up, post expansion, and breakout. But we've got essentially 71.5, 71,622, and of course we have $69,000 essentially cutting across these highs here before the breakout. So that is something to pay attention to there. And then of course 65,000 is the monthly basis band. So something to pay attention to in that regard. See, the $85,000 is that first bearish candle swing low, post expansion. And then overhead, we have the 1.168, not 618, 168, or 16.8% above the prior cycle high at $69,000 at 88.7. We've seen the test directly into it, then a little bit of front run of it before the lower lows. Above there, we have the higher low from the move up. So we've got this higher low here that was right on the 1.168. And then we have another higher low here on the close open that was kind of holding price up before getting closed in. And then we saw the big dump off. Now this higher low is coming in at $92,000. Keep in mind, we need to see weekly closes back above 93.5. And I've told you this over and over again, this retest of this consolidation prior to the breakdown at $95,000. I am bearish below it, even if Bitcoin regains this range here. It's a week below $95,000. In this case, 95,128. And then we can possibly look for structure to be built in there, seeing wherever price would stop if it does beat 95 on a close. But I am generally bearish below $95,000, even if we do start to see progress up in that area. So, but progress would be at minimum getting above 85, and then breaking that 89 on the weekly. So let's go to the weekly and just kind of spec that out, and we'll get rid of some of these extra horizontals for the dailies in that big weekly zone below the big ass weekly zone of interest. Let's go to the weekly. Now, same thing that I described on Wednesday. Nothing's changed. We have a lower high. It's essentially $89,000 at this higher low. We need to see closes above 93.5. That would look really good. Then, of course, take out 99.5 here to start testing the highs for the weekly. Coming off of the lower second standard deviation, that would look pretty good, but I still would even exercise caution on the weekly until we saw closes above the all-time high at 109, 109,360 or so, and the upper second to get expansion for the next leg. And realistically, if we do get a downtrend break, which would come on any close above this $88,800, $89,000, that look pretty good, right? But we at some point need to see higher low structure or equal low structure, right? Because breaking above 89 would be a higher high, so you need to see higher low equal low structure either on a swing or a close basis for the weekly anyway. A constructive look on it, it doesn't really matter. Let's say, like, for argument's sake, this is the low, right? Even coming up and testing in here something like this, that then kind of comes up, or even if it was to swing the highs, right, and then come back down, that'd be pretty bearish, to be honest. But you want to see higher low equal lows and then come from there. But even if it came in lower, that would be much more preferred. And then higher low equal low, then go break the highs, go on the next leg. That would be very bullish. You can come up with different flag scenarios and all that, and here's your staff, and there's your flag, and here's the next run to 150K or whatever. That could be on the table, sure, absolutely. It's definitely, the setup's still there. There's Bitcoin on the monthly, again, I don't know how many times I got to call this out. It's still an uptrend. It's higher highs, higher lows. So the caution would be topping out around that 106 again. That would look pretty bad, especially on a close for the monthly. We need to see closes back above that 109, 360. So to get continuation, I think it's a very low likelihood we take out the swing at 49, but weirder things have happened. That's well below electrical cost right now. You wouldn't see price below there for very long. Even miners would be hoovering it up, and they'd stop selling anything they mined as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. It's basically, this is just a lower low. We need to see it set. Where could you see it set? Right now, you want to see close above that 89. So the same area to break the downtrend is the same area to set the low. That would look pretty good. We saw something similar over here. We saw the higher high break to 66,550, right? Breaking the $65,000 area, right? Which was the first high from 2021. And then we saw the higher low swing. That's kind of what we need to see. Break this, get a nice, even if we see a higher low swing and then march on for the next run, that'll look really good. But other than that, we just got to see how things play out. Weekly momentum is kind of important here. So we'll see what this updates to. It's looking for an initial cross as it stands right now and closes above 82,300. So watch that number over the weekend. 82,300, I would say 82,350 would be the preferred close. That would be a cross, but anywhere above there would be a stronger cross, but you need to see follow through then next week, right? That's what we'd be looking for. Of course, we'll follow up with that on Monday. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum and Solana, and then let everybody get on with enjoying their weekend. So let's go to ETH. ETH on the weekly. Nearly hitting our 1369.79 down there, as I'm moving stuff all over the chart inadvertently. Sorry. For the weekly, this is just a straight downtrend. Oh my God, man. ETH. ETH. This is going to be a slog to get out of this, huh? Look, bullish case is, let's look at momentum. This is a full on move down to the bearish control zone, turn on 1566. Again, 1566 is one of the daily levels. I think it's this high right here, or the close. It's the low, 1566. Actually, no. 1566 is right around where price is at this very moment. So, if it gets across right here on the low coming in next week and it can hold it week over week, that would look pretty good to turn momentum back up, but it's still got to build structure. As it stands right now, you can call a low set. Sorry, my hand was in front of my microphone as I was kind of despondent about this price action for my ETH friends here. Look, 1800 essentially would look good. Close above last week's high would look really good. I don't know if we'll see that this week, but maybe for next week, $1,807. So 1807, still bearish below 2100, especially 2300, 2320 on the daily. But that cross is in play. So, close right around here or higher, and there's a better chance that we'll see a cross back to the upside for momentum, at least indicating that we're likely going to see a little bit of that we could see a low set, and that could possibly turn into a major low, that could turn into a macro low. And daily, of course, same areas, needs to break above the prior support, now resistance, where the basis band is at that 1800, 1807.09. Take out this high in the daily at 1956 to go test 2100 again. Need to see closes above 2300, 2320 specifically on the daily, 2300 on the weekly. And then, just like Bitcoin, I'm bearish below the $95,000 Twin Towers. Here on ETH, bearish below 25.51.49 in this case. So, but we could start to see positive things start to build if we see an uptrend starting to form. I wouldn't, the thing is people get really excited and like, it's bull runs back on. This is downtrend. This thing needs to build structure. So you don't necessarily need to take the exact low. You can take the higher low confirmation or equal low confirmation when that eventually comes around on longer term time frames, because then you can be more confident in it trying to build further to the upside. Regain 2320, get up into the 2728 to 3K level, and then eventually work its way back up. I think that it's going to have to build structure. If it just snapped back, that's an instant sell indication right there. So we don't want to see a snapback. We want to see healthy, constructive price action back to the upside. Solana is going to be the same thing. So I know that there's a bit of tension between the ETH and Solana communities here, but realistically, this is a massive drawdown, and we did see a break of structure into a major weekly zone at 125. That needs to be recovered for the bulls here. Low looks like it might be in. If it does come back down, you want to see it, hold up around that $100 down to the 95. Otherwise, $80 is in the cards. But back above 125, we can look to this spike high at 136, and then of course to 147. You can call it 150 because there is some price action around 150 right here. Then we can start looking at 169. Nice. 170 area, bearish below the Twin Towers at 180. Anywhere above there, we can start looking back to 200 and then eventually the highs again. I do think it's going to take a while. Again, just like ETH, if you see a snapback, it's great if you're in position right now, sure. But for longer terms, if you miss it, you can always wait for more constructive price action to start to develop. On the daily, looks good above 101. Let's go to ETH because I didn't look at the daily for ETH. 1476. So yeah, it's good basically above the lows as long as it's holding that 1369 low. Looking okay. You just don't want to see like a bearish reset on momentum without making any progress in terms of trend, and remaining in a downtrend instead of breaking trend. Same for Solana, which is going to be that 101. You you want to see trend breaks. At minimum, the swing high outside of this 125. See close above 125, you can start looking to 130. What is this? 136, right? And then we want to see a break and close above there. And then we can start entertaining moves to 150. Higher low structure being built, equal low structure being built from there. That would look pretty good. Weekly, it's going to be the same damn thing. The problem is, same as for Ethereum, the swing high at 147 is actually a decent swing high to break. So it's a little bit easier for Solana if it can start climbing back to the upside, break that swing high. But realistically, the major high is the all-time high. So you want to see lower highs, higher lows, and then build back up to it and get a breakout, maybe even get some compression in here. Between that 170 and big range up here, very volatile on the highs. So, we want to see some kind of compression. This is already expansion down, so we need mean reversion, compression, and then breakout back to the upside. So it might take a little while, but in general, I've been bidding these areas and lower, and I plan to bid lower if these things go lower. Same with Bitcoin, right? Like, it's essentially, there could be more heavy downside, but even like I've mentioned this before, even if it was 50% more downside, who cares? Like a large portion of the move is over at that point, and it's good for scaling. It's risk to reward. It's already down 67%. So if it goes another 50, which, if it goes another 50 from where it is, like right here, if it goes another 50, 50% down, it's putting it in the $50 to $60 range. I'm willing to accumulate down there and even lower. I'm willing, the bids get larger, the lower price goes. Average your spot position in, whatever you want to do. Not financial advice, of course, but that's the way that I play these things. Alt season has not occurred. Bitcoin showing that, it does have the potential for continuing this higher low structure and getting a nice pump. It's the next rip to the upside that we need to pay attention to. When we do see a big rip in Bitcoin to the upside, that's the one that we have to go, okay, we got to play it defensive until we see expansion above the all-time high for another leg. Then we can be more confident in everything else. And then eventually alt season will kick off and we get to all eat on alts finally. And not just Solana and Caspa and a few others that made it, your XRP with its big breakout and stuff like that. And finally get the giga pump across all of the alts. And of course, memes have been following Bitcoin. So every time Bitcoin, memes being in a bear market need to climb their way out, but they've been really good about following Bitcoin on its up days and down days. So they've been really good Bitcoin beta plays, and been printing for a lot of people. So still a lot of liquidity there. So it's been fun. All right, that's going to do it. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. Have a great weekend. I will talk to you again on Monday. And with all that being said, Landy out. Take care.